Hello everyone, we are from Group 7 Business Analysis and Valuation class with the lecturer Bu Elvia and Bapak Rachman. We're going to present about prospective analysis forecasting of PT EXCL Axiata and PT Indosat. Our group consists of 3 members. First is me, Shafira, Putri, Indika, and then Revelino and Salsabella, Marsadania. The topics we're going to present is first about introduction and concept of forecasting, and then the application, and the last one is summary and recommendation. Okay, before we're going to start talking about forecasting, I'm going to provide an overview about the companies. First is PT EXCL Axiata. EXCL Axiata was established in October 1989 as a general trading and services company under the name PT Graha Metropolitan Lestari. PT EXCL Axiata provides several products and services such as data, voice, SMS, and other value-added telecommunication. Next is Indosat. PT Indosat was established in Indonesia on 10 November 1967 to provide international telecommunication services in Indonesia. Indosat also provides several products and services such as cellular, fixed data, wireless broadband service, and fixed telecommunication or fixed voice offerings. Next, we're going to talk about the theory. First one is about overall structure of forecast. We're going to use comprehensive forecasting approach since it is useful even when only interested in one aspect of performance because it protects against unrealistic implicit assumption. And for the practical framework, we are going to projecting condensed financial statements that consist of condensed balance sheet and condensed income statement. There are 3 steps in forecasting process. First is forecasting operating items, forecasting non-operating investment items, and the last one is forecasting financing items. To gather information about forecasting, we have to do these 3 steps. First is predict changes in environmental and firm-specific factors. It is assess how the firm's economic environment will change in future years and how the firm has indicated to respond to such changes. It includes macroeconomic analysis, industry and business strategy analysis, and accounting analysis. The next step is to assess a relationship between step 1 factors and financial performance. In this step, we're going to assess how such future changes will translate into financial performance trend. And the last one, we're going to forecast condensed financial statements based on the outcome from step 1 and step 2. Next, we can use performance behavior for a starting point, since past performance may be used to understand the behavior of key measures, and studying the time series of measures can provide insights into trends for future performance and provide benchmark to compare forecasts. And there are 4 behavior that we can consider. First is revenue growth. The behavior is depend on the industry, and as the company mature, the growth rate may slow down due to demand saturation and competition. And the next one is earning behavior. Earning behavior trend is analyzed using prior year, using random walk or random walk with drift, which the final result won't differ from benchmark and tend to sustain. Next, ROE behavior or return on equity. ROE may affect the earnings, which company with higher ROEs tend to expand their invest more quickly. And the last one is the behavior of components of ROE. This behavior can be analyzed through its key components, which forces the result of ROE. And the last one, we are going to build assumption on the 7 components. First is macroeconomic, the second is revenue growth, and then NOPAT margin, working capital to revenue, non-current asset to revenue, non-operating investment, and the last one is capital structure that consists of after-tax cost of debt and debt to capital ratio.
Okay, next, my name is Salsabella Marsadania, and I will continue explain about the application of prospective analysis forecasting of EXCL and Indosat. Next slide. Okay, for the first step, we're going to predict the changes in environmental and firm-specific factors. And the first factor is macroeconomic analysis. And according to the macroeconomic analysis, the Indonesian economy is expected to strengthen in 2022, but it may remain stable or even decline in the following years as global economic growth is projected slow. Next slide. Next is for the industry analysis. Overall, for the telecommunication industry, according to the industrial life cycle, historical trend from 2000 until 2018, and then the COVID-19, and the outlook, we can say that the industry is forecast to grow strongly in 2027 after a decline in 2018. And the capital expenditure is also forecast to grow between 2022 and 2027. Next slide. And for the business strategy analysis, we analyze from the competitive strategy and the operational performance, also the focus and prospect in the future for XL and Indosat from both company annual report. And overall, for both XL and Indosat has a strong business strategy as the telecommunication industry, which the environment is highly competitive. And their operational performance has shown a steady growth due to the current COVID-19 situation back in 2020, which both companies' business strategy was benefit from the hybrid working method. In the future, both company has implemented the strategy to focus on maintaining growth through products and service and partnership. Next slide. And lastly, for accounting analysis, we make sure our financial data are reliable. So we use the accounting analysis to ensure there is no indication of misstatement on the historical data from 2017 and 2022, which both companies were audited by PwC Indonesia. And as we can see for the audit opinion, it's all has present fairly in all material. Okay, continue to the second step is to assess the relationship between step 1 factors and the financial performance. So the first factor is macroeconomic and industry growth. And for the macroeconomic, Indonesia economy is forecast to strengthen in 2022, but it may remain stable or even decline in the following years as the global economy growth is projected to slow. And we got the data from statista.com regarding the Indonesia GDP growth from 2022 until 2027. And the second one aspect is revenue growth. We estimate the positive growth for the upcoming years due to the telecommunication industry is predicted to grow in the future years. And currently for XL is on the maturity stage, so the growth will be slowly increased. And the third one is NOPAT margin. We assume that there is a gradual growth in our PAT margin due to two factors. The first one is a cost leadership strategy, which is used by XL management. And then the second one is SG&A expense. Next slide. And the fourth factor is operating working capital to revenue. And for XL, it is forecasted to have a significant decrease in operating working capital for the next 5 years due to there are several negative growth on their component. And then the fifth one is net non-current operating asset per revenue. As the non-current operation asset growth remain constant, there will be a gradual increase on the net non-current operating asset portion in XL revenue. And then for non-operating investment to revenue, we assume that XL would not acquire any company share with significant amount. So therefore, non-operating investment will gradually increase until the next 5 years or on the 2027. Next slide. Okay, for the capital structure, the first one is after tax return on non-operating investment. For XL, it is also expected to have an increase in their after tax return as we use the assumption from average rate and from the historical data on 2017 and 2018, XL doesn't have the non-operating investment, and later on, the rate are increasing with the most significant in 2020. And then the next one is after tax cost of debt, which XL is expected to have an increase after tax cost of debt rate as we calculate using the assumption from average growth rate. And XL faced the highest after tax cost of debt rate in 2020, also due to the pandemic COVID-19, which has the tax benefit. And the last one is debt to capital, which XL is expected to have an increase in debt to capital ratio as we forecast using the average growth rate assumption. And from the historical trend, we can see that XL has an increasing amount of debt. Next one. Okay, next one about the forecasting assumption for Indosat. So for Indosat, overall the macroeconomic factor is also the same, that Indonesia economy is forecast to strengthen in 2022. And next one is for the revenue growth. We use the similar assumption and calculation with XL. Thus, we also estimate the positive growth on Indosat. And then the next one for NOPAT margin, this is slightly different from XL, which for the Indosat, the NOPAT margin we assume there is a gradually growth in NOPAT margin due to two factors. The first one is SG&A efficiency, and the second one is tax rate. Next slide. Okay, next for Indosat, the assumption regarding the operating working capital to revenue for Indosat, it is also forecasted to have a significant decrease in operating working capital for the next 5 years. And for the calculation, we are also using the average growth rate and the average rate. And there are also several components show a negative rate. And then the next one is net non-current operating assets to revenue. And as the non-current operating asset growth remain constant, there would be a significant decrease on net non-current operating asset portion in Indosat's revenue, which implied the company to be more productive. And then the next one is non-operating investment to revenue. We use the 2021 data as the benchmark. And based on this assumption, we forecast that non-operating investment portion in Indosat revenue will gradually increase in the upcoming years. Next slide. Okay, for the capital structure, first one is after tax return on non-operating investment. It is not much different from XL. For Indosat, they are also expected to have an increase in their after tax return on non-operating investment asset as we use the average rate assumption. And then next one for after tax cost of debt, Indosat is also expected to have an increase in after tax cost of debt, right? As we use the assumption of average growth rate. And the last one is debt to capital. It is also expected to have an increase in debt to capital ratio as we forecast using the average rate assumption. Next slide. Okay, and we're next into the third step is to forecast the condensed financial statement. So previously, we already assessed the relationship between the step 1 factors and the financial performance that we got from the financial statement data from 2017 until 2021, the latest one. And these are the results, and calculate the percentage is from their historical performance for the last 5 years. We use the average and average growth rate, also the sub-factor that we got from the financial statement. Next slide. Okay, next one is for Indosat. We also got it from Indosat 2017 until 2021 financial data that for the percentage we also got from their past performance using the average and average growth rate and sub component factor for the forecasting. Next slide. Okay, and these are the historical data. As I said previously, that we use data from 2017, but for the forecasted, we use the 4-year historical trend for 2018 to 2021, as there is some ending data in 2017 that we use for the beginning data in 2018. Next slide. Okay, and then for the forecast, we use the calculation from the historical data and the forecast assumption. And we have some key takeaways. The first one is XL will experience an increasing profit in upcoming years. And XL free cash flow to equity will also increase until 2027. Meanwhile, its free cash flow from operation will gradually decline. And meanwhile, for XL business asset, it is also expected to increase in the upcoming years. Next slide. And these are the overview for XL forecast condensed financial statement. Next slide. Okay, next is the third step for Indosat. And for Indosat, we also use the same technique as XL, and these are the overview for the historical from 2018 to 2021. Next slide. Okay, and maybe there are several different from XL on this forecast. The first one, Indosat profit will significantly increase in the upcoming years, and both ISAT free cash flow to equity and from operation will significantly increase, except for 2023 free cash flow from operation. And lastly, Indosat business asset will gradually increase from 2022 until 2027. Next slide. And these are the overall forecast condensed financial statement for Indosat from 2018 and until the forecast for 2027. Next slide.
Okay, so for the last segment, my name is Revelino, and for the final discussion, we would like to summarize our discussion and analysis, and also later we give the recommendation for both companies so that they can improve their performance. Next slide, please. Okay, for the first one, we can see that in both companies, their revenue drivers are their sales, which come from a few segments that they have. And segment that contributed the most to both XL and ISAT revenue is the cellular segments. And their sales also are influenced by a few factors, include subscribers growth, average revenue per user or ARPU, and churn rate. Talking about ARPU, according to Kominfo, ARPU in Indonesia is lower than other countries, which means telecommunication companies should maintain subscribers numbers if they don't want to experience losses. Meanwhile, the churn rate represents customers or subscribers loyalty. And to maintain the revenue, both companies need to maintain their numbers of subscribers. Therefore, these companies need to ensuring satisfaction of their customer by providing the best service to customers. To give the best service, they need to do improvement, especially on the network structure. Next slide, please. Okay, as mentioned and explained by Salsabella earlier, we use several forecasting assumption to generate the forecast financial statement. The first one is the revenue growth, which both companies are forecasted to have positive and increasing growth during 2022 to 2027 based on industry and Indonesia economic outlook. The telecommunication industry is predicted to grow significantly in the future years due to increasing demand, mobile penetration, and heavy investment on network structure by telecom companies. The second assumption is non-profit margin. As explained previously, we assume that the non-profit margin for both companies grows gradually. And this growth is caused by several factors, that differently. For both companies, for EXCL, it's assumed that management will continuously maintain its tight cost control, and for the ISAT, management also continues to effectively manage its SG&A costs. And the third one is operating working capital to revenue, which for both companies are forecast to be gradually decreased following the several negative average growth rate on the components. And the fourth one is not current operating assets revenue, that we assume that this components its growth will be constant until 2027 for both companies. However, there will be different effect in those companies. For ISAT, its non-current operating assets in the revenue will significantly decreasing, and EXCL is in the otherwise. Next slide, please. The fifth one of the forecasting assumption that we use is a non-operating investment to revenue. Both ISAT and EXCL's non-operating investment are forecast to gradually increasing in upcoming years, assuming that there will be no acquisition with significant amount or any significant event that affects their ownership. Next one is after-tax return on non-operating investment. For both companies, these components are calculated using average assumption, which is expected to be stable. EXCL has a higher rate than ISAT, and as it is affected by the tax benefit received by EXCL. The next one is after-tax cost of debt. For both companies are expected to have an increasing amount of after-tax cost of debt, as EXCL and ISAT have positive growth rate. This is also affected by the tax benefit received by EXCL, which led to EXCL have a higher average growth rate than ISAT. The last one is debt to capital, which is we forecast using the average rate assumption, which both companies show the positive amount for the next 5 years. This indicates a potential for both companies to expand its capital structure through debt. Next slide, please. Okay, so after we analyze and discuss about both companies, which one is better, as we can see, Indosat outperforms EXCL in terms of condensed income statement, free cash flow to equity, and the condensed free cash flow from operations. While EXCL is better than ISAT for condensed balance sheet. So overall, we can say that the historical trend on condensed financial statement, Indosat showed that they have a better performance than EXCL. This is proven that Indosat performance during the year 2018, 2019, and 2021, which generate more profit. But EXCL able to optimize the opportunity from hybrid method due to the COVID-19. And this is done by EXCL better than ISAT. This can also be seen from the return on net operating assets, or an ROE, and also the equity growth rate, which is better. Next slide. But if we take a look for the forecast data or result, we can see that EXCL actually have a better performance because its forecast balance sheet, income statement, free cash flow to equity show better results than ISAT. During the year 2022 until 2025, EXCL shows a better performance, and ISAT also shows a better performance during the year 2026 until 2027. Thus, we can conclude that for the forecasting, EXCL has a better potential than ISAT, which may due to the adjustment merger process on ISAT in 2022. Next slide. So how both companies can improve their performance? As we can see, both companies have its own problems or issue. The first one is EXCL Axiata. We can see that EXCL seems to have negative cash flow throughout 2017 and 2021. Therefore, to be able to improve its performance, management can maintain its cost control policies that will gradually reduce its cost, and while at the same time increasing sales through the promotions and providing better service to the customers. So therefore, their cash flow would be positive. And then for the Indosat, its issue is high debt to equity ratio, which is based on actual and forecast data. It can be seen that ISAT has a much larger proportion of debt compared to its equity. Thus, Indosat can reduce its debt and further increase its equity in their capital to reduce the risk of default And ISAT can also improve their performance. So that's all from our group. So thank you for watching.